Hello, confidence community. I'm so excited to be here with you today with Rachel Dick. So drop a hello in the comments if you're here live. If you're watching this on the replay, just drop the word replay and let us know that you were here. As you all know, I am a confidence coach, a board certified nurse coach, a single mother to three boys living in New Jersey. So Rachel and I, we worked together for over 2 years and it's been a journey. And she has an amazing story. Interestingly, she helps nurses heal through storytelling. So I really wanted to bring her on today to share her own personal journey over the last 2.5 years with me as her coach and what she's been through and how she's helping nurses heal through storytelling and actually overcoming these hurdles and traumas and obstacles in her own life, which just makes her a stronger coach for everyone else. So, without further ado, Rachel, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone your vital statistics.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. This feels like such a full circle moment. I'm actually even going to start with a story before I even get into who I am, because that's just how I roll. I start with a story. So right before I hopped on, I told Amy at 7:30 in the morning here in California, and I told Amy that I was out late last night. Well, where was I? I actually was at like a music cow circle here in Los Angeles that a friend of mine invited me to. And at that circle, people were playing music, there was drums, there was cacao. It was so connecting, it was so beautiful. And I brought my guitar and I have been playing in my living room for 10 years. I almost never play in front of people. And I was like shaking and sweating, and my husband was sitting next to me and he was encouraging me, like, get the guitar and play a song. And I did. And my mouth was dry and I was shaking and I was sweating, but I did it. I played music and it was so beautiful. You can go to my Instagram stories if you want to see a recording. But it was such a full circle moment for me because when I started working with you 2.5 years ago, I was seeking a coach to help me open my voice, to help me like just feel the confidence that people told me I had. People told me externally I appeared confident, but I wanted that to match my inner experience. And so it was just such a full circle moment. It just felt so beautiful that this happened last night, and today we're having a conversation and reflecting on the work that we've been doing together for the last 2.5 years. And so who am I? I am a coach, and I am a somatic writing coach, and I help humans master their hero's journey through the power of somatic writing. So I'm also a registered nurse. I'm a board certified holistic coach, and I basically help people master their own story through the power of creativity and somatics. I've guided hundreds of people through this process through my methodology where we combine nervous system awareness and writing to really just like write your own story and figure out who you are and get to know yourself on a really deep, intimate level and use those tools to choose the life you want and choose the story that you want to write, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, it's been such a journey with you as your coach. It's really been a privilege and full on disclosure. When Rachel first came to me back in September of 2022, I was fairly new, right? I had been coaching then for a solid 10 months. So actually it wasn't new. But when she came to me, I had such imposter syndrome, and Rachel was out there doing her thing. I really didn't think nurse coaches needed me. Like, I thought nurse coaches were good and they didn't need me. And that was honestly what I brought into our first couple of calls. And we were remembering how I didn't even propose to her at the end of the second free coaching experience. And Rachel actually kind of asked me, like, are you going to offer to work with me? And then I was like, sure, let's work together. I just did not think that Rachel needed to work with me. I thought she was just coming in to have a free experience and the whole thing. So I just want to share that the work that we're doing, as Rachel is doing, and we're going to get into her own story, really is your own personal work. Your own personal work is connected to your purpose and how you help others. So, what people don't know about me as the confidence coach is I'm the biggest imposter in the room. Like I am battling that stuff every single day. So exactly what I coach women to achieve in their lives, I'm doing that work behind the scenes. And Rachel, I know you are personally because I've been your coach. So why don't we just start off with you telling us specifically, reflecting on our 2 year coaching journey? What were the pivotal moments that significantly contributed to your healing process? Specifically, when it comes to two things that really stand out for me with you is ancestral healing and generational trauma, as well as inner child work.
Yeah, there were, oh my gosh, so many moments, but I would say definitely the ancestral trauma was a huge theme for me. So, like I mentioned, people told me all the time that I was confident. You're such a confident person. And even like when I reached out to you, I was like, I want to feel more confident. I want to use my voice. But I felt like there was something holding me back. Specifically, if I'm going to like point to a physical location in my body, it was like there was like a tightening around my throat chakra. And it took a lot of digging. So in our 2.5 years together, there was a lot of stories that would come up from childhood. And a lot of these stories were around just growing up in an environment with a lot of religious restrictions. And like, for example, I was not allowed to sing or dance in public as a child, right? And I always always struggled with that, right? We would be at our family table and it was like my brothers were allowed to sing and I had to hum under my voice, right? And so there was like this very physical manifestation of repressing my own voice and staying quiet when I wanted to be loud. And a lot of the work that I did with you, which was very new for me, revolved around going back in time and being there for that little girl. Like that was such a new and novel concept for me. It felt really, really weird. I was going to say at first, but honestly, for a very long time. Like it took me a long time to even sink into the process of visualizing her and seeing her and going back and holding space for her and giving her the love that she needed and giving her the permission to be herself. So yeah, a lot of the work that we did was really around getting to know her and being with her and spending time with her and giving her what she needed and giving her the things that she lacked. And it's so cool how that, and it's almost like this magical process that happens that all of a sudden this adult version of you feels more free and feels lighter and feels more connected and is able to just move through the world in a different way because you took me on this journey back in time where I was able to give this little girl version of me what she needed. And a lot of the work that we did also related to my grandmother. She came up a lot in the work that we did. She was somebody that always felt so safe for me. She was just like this loving person with this loving energy. And like she was almost like this ally that I would sometimes call in. But it was interesting and confusing as well because she is no longer here on this earth, but I always felt like she would maybe judge the person I am because she herself was very judgmental and strict and grew up in a very she's a Holocaust survivor and so she herself was carrying a lot of trauma and a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain, a lot of emotional pain, a lot of spiritual pain. And religion was very important to her. It was what got her through a lot of dark times. It's what connected her to her past. And this thought of like holding both, holding that she was this loving presence in my life and at the same time there was like this holding myself back for fear of like, oh my God, would my Oma judge me? Would she be disapproving of my lifestyle? She saw the person that I was today. And it was just healing to just hold that duality of like, yes and yes, right? Like it just I was able to just kind of like hold everything lightly and just yeah, that's my story. Like that's my story, and I get to reclaim it. I get to own it. I get to write it, and yeah, she was somebody that really came through a lot in the work that we did together, and her story and healing those parts of me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that and reflect on and share some of the more like specific challenges that you encountered while addressing this ancestral trauma and how our coaching sessions facilitated breakthroughs in these arenas. Like what breakthroughs really stand out for you?
So, what comes to mind for me is something that you actually mentioned in our very last session when we were reflecting. And something that came up for me a lot was one of the part of the process of going back and being with your inner child would be sometimes giving her a hug or being there for her, holding her. And I would face a lot of resistance because one of my big stories, and this is a story that I'm still in the process of rewriting, but one of my big stories was that motherhood happened before I was ready. I was very young. I was, in a culture, in an environment where it was just expected that I would get married and have a baby right away at a very young age. And that was something I struggled with. And sometimes we would go back in time and I would see this little girl and she'd be crying on the floor. And it was like, do you want to go give her a hug? And I'd be like, actually, not really. Like, I don't actually want someone else to take care of. And that felt so callous and that felt so like, my God, what's wrong with me? But it was very confusing as well. It was like I knew she needed me, and I didn't feel like I had the capacity to be there for her. And you always guided me through that very beautifully, with just no judgment, and it's okay, and we don't have to do anything before we're ready. And so that was really challenging and confusing, of like, how do I be there for her and also honor and respect where I'm at. And it also ended up being the biggest growth because it taught me that I get to choose. It gave me that autonomy. And I did eventually come around, and I was eventually able to move through that resistance and give her what she needed and hold her and hug her when that was what she was asking for. But it was such a learning for me, in terms of like, this work isn't really about the granular details of like what you're seeing when you're going back in time and being there for your inner child. It's really just about that neutrality and that passion and that grace and that love, no matter what's happening, right? Like, no, it's not judging myself and calling myself names or saying, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you that you can't hug this girl that's crying on the floor and needs you. That's not what it's about. It's like, can I have compassion and grace for my adult self? Can I have compassion and grace for my younger self? Can I just meet it with grace and compassion and neutrality, and just, that's the work. Like, that's where the transformation happens, is when we're able to do that. So it ended up being my biggest challenge, but it ended up also being, I think, my biggest growth.
Love that. And I just want to touch on that a little because self-love is really radical self-acceptance and self-care. So that instance where your adult self wasn't ready to take care of that little girl was true for you in that moment. And when we have this very rigid view of what self-love looks like, well, self-love is me running to that inner child. And no, in that moment, we needed to come to a level of acceptance, right? That, hey, I don't want to take care of this child. And that's okay right here, right now. So it's like, I just want to tell anyone that's like listening, self-acceptance is not always like being in lovey gushy mushy with yourself. It's actually just being honest and accepting where you're at in the moment. And maybe where you're at in the moment is, yeah, I don't want to take care of this other kid right now. And it's like, okay, that's okay. And I just want to let anyone, maybe there's coaches watching that do this work. We could have fear as a coach, which I did, that you're going to do more damage to that child. And this is when having like resources, because again, truth be told, I didn't share any of this with Rachel until now, until the 2-year container was over. But I'm always learning for my clients. So I was being resourced and bringing this to a team of my mentors, asking them, like, what do I do when this happens? And they would kind of walk and talk me through it. So I was able to always come into the next session prepared. But inevitably, as clients are, the next session is completely different, right? It's just something totally different. You're never prepared for what your client's going to bring in. But yeah, that not only were you learning self acceptance, I was learning more levels of self acceptance and compassion and space holding for my clients through this journey. So, I was learning right alongside you, as I'm sure you can relate, and every coach watching can relate. We're learning and growing with our clients. So, in what specific ways, Rachel, has, forming this bond with this inner child affected your relationships, your business, like the areas of life in the here and now for you, your parenting, right?
I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to choose one example? It literally just spilled over everywhere. I'd say, like, in broad terms, it's allowed me to feel comfortable in my body. So your body comes with you everywhere, right? It comes with you in your business, in your parenting, in your intimate relationships. And so just being able to feel loving and accepting towards myself and just feel good and confident and worthy everywhere I go has spilled over in just so many ways. My parenting for sure. Maybe we'll just go with that one. Like the parenting, the way I parent my children is so different because I learned to love and accept that younger part of myself. It also allowed me to stop judging the way I parent or feeling like I'm falling short. I think growing up, there were things that I was lacking, and I would promise myself when I grow up, my kids are going to have everything and I'm never going to make any mistakes and I'm going to do everything perfectly and everything that my parents did wrong, I'm going to do right. And of course, it doesn't play out that way. And then you become an adult and you're trying your best and maybe you're judging yourself because, you're not meeting those needs that you thought that you would need. And I just learned to meet myself with so much compassion. And so my relationship with all of my children is just so much more peaceful and joyful. Our house is peaceful. That's something I didn't have a few years ago. It was something I was praying for, something that I wanted so badly, but the house was not a peaceful place. And everybody was on the defense and everybody was protecting themselves and everybody there was tension in the home. And we recently went on a road trip with the kids to Joshua Tree National Park. It's a couple of hours here from LA. It's the most magical place. And on the way home, one of my kids said, I just love our family. We're just so perfect together and we just get along so well. And I'm like in the passenger seat, just like bawling my eyes out. I'm like, what just happened? Like the words just flowed out of her. I don't even think she remembered what things looked like, 3 years ago. But I was just like, oh my God, it was one of those moments where you're like, all this work, all this investing in mentorship, all of this showing up for myself, all of this journaling, all of this like diving into my story. It's like, this is what it's for, to have these micro moments where you're just like, holy shit, I created this. Like I created a home that's peaceful. I created an environment where my children can thrive and be happy and be authentic and be themselves and feel safe. And that's like priceless. That's priceless. Like it's just incredible.
Yeah. Chills with that. Chills with that because as much as we're doing the work, Rachel, to be, right, like you said, create that home inside your own body because you're with you from birth to death, and that safety, that belonging, that sturdiness it's nowhere else but here. Nothing beats the external validation. Like nothing beats like seeing that externally in your world and knowing like I did that. Like I had something to do with that. So that just gives me the chills. How did our 2-year coaching containers support your evolution from personal healing to empowering other nurses through storytelling?
Yeah, I love this question because I'd say you and I are very different as coaches, but there's also a lot of overlap. Obviously, I was drawn to you because of your story. I heard you share your story on a podcast, and I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to this woman. So I have brought so many of the things that we learned together into the coaching work that I do. We do, so in my coaching, both my groups and my one-on-ones, we use a lot of writing. And so a typical session would look like about 30 minutes of like deep listening, what's coming up, what's going on, what wants to be seen. Really, really, I utilize a lot of the tools from Leanne Vanderpool, from A Shift in Being, and just kind of like really being present with my client and listening. And then we will shift into a writing prompt together. So based on what they shared, I'll come up with a prompt and we will write together. Both of us will write for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever there's space for, with a real emphasis on be in your body while you write. Tune into your senses, try to be present, try to slow down, and just write and just allow it to flow. It's not about like that masculine energy of trying to think of what to write. Like it's creative energy that gets to flow through you and gets to land on the page. And then something vulnerable might come through and then we both share. So I'll model that vulnerability for my client, they'll share, and we get to share this beautiful moment. And the things that come through are so beautiful. And very often in those writings, the inner child will come up, like that younger version, right? Sometimes the writing prompt will specifically ask, like just this week we did a writing prompt, in my group, share a moment from childhood where your inner artist child was wounded. right? Maybe somebody read your journal or you were criticized for your spelling, whatever it is. And so we'll write about those moments from childhood. And so when people are sharing, either in the writing or in the listening portion of the call, I find myself bringing in so much of what I do with you, which is like, can we just hold space for this child? Can we meet her with neutrality and awareness and acceptance of what is before we move into that phase of like, what do we need to change? What do we need to fix? What do we, what it's just like, there's so much power in just holding space for those stories, holding space for what was, just meeting it with grace and compassion. And so, yeah, a lot of the concepts that I learned with you, I sort of have weaved into my own method. I wish I knew how to do tapping with my clients. I love that we do the EFT tapping, and that's something that I wanted to get trained in for a while. So I won't specifically do EFT tapping, but I'll still bring in a lot of those concepts and those principles around how to move forward and how to grow, bringing our inner child with us, just remembering that she's part of the story, all those versions of her, like they all get to come with us, and they all deserve love and respect and compassion. And yeah, those past versions of ourselves, like they make up who we are. And it's, yeah, something that we get to weave into our stories. So I bring it into my sessions with my clients. It's really shifted the way I coach, both with my groups and with my one-on-ones.
I love that. It's taking that moment to honor. That's what I think of as humans. We're in this constant state of change. And that means a constant state of resistance, because resistance comes in with change, and a constant state of like grief. So when those vulnerable moments come up, just taking that moment to be with, to honor, right, to be in your body really is everything. And I think that's what we need the most help with as humans, right? Is like honoring that moment of the space to just be, to accept before, like you said, we try to fix or change. So that is beautiful. And I love that. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your program, because I know you launched it in 2022 when we had started. You had a group already before I did. I actually launched my group after I was still just doing one-on-one coaching. And I remember that when you came to me too as a coach. So I think I want to just share on a personal note, when we're coaching humans, humans that are coachable want to always learn and grow. And we don't have to be the expert on anything. We just have to be willing to take that client to their next level, whatever that next level is. And it's never the same level that we're at, whether they're right, but like few steps behind us on the same journey, or as you are a few steps ahead because you had already launched this group. So tell us about your group, Heal the Right Way, and how it helps nurses in discovering their voices and mastering storytelling.
Love to. And I'm so excited that you're asking this question because I feel like I'm undergoing a bit of like a metamorphosis around like how I'm talking about the program and what it is, because there's definitely some shifts and changes that are happening. But essentially this is a program that teaches you to be visible and to express yourself and to master your life through storytelling. So through the power of storytelling and mastering your own story, mastering your own hero's journey, you actually get to create your own reality. Like it sounds crazy and it sounds woo woo. And I am going to a Joe Dispenza event this week. So I'm like super in the like manifestation portal right now. But when you learn to write your own story, when you get to choose an empowering lens through which to see your life, everything shifts, everything changes, everything changes. And so the way that Heal the Right Way works is we basically dive into the principles of the Artist's Way, which is a beautiful book that talks about creative expression and creative flow and how source energy flows through us and we get to co-create with the universe when we are creative. And we learn all about how creativity is healing. We learn about somatic writing, tools, journaling, and we go through this amazing transformation process where by the time you're done this program, and again, it's a program that people take over and over and over again. I have somebody in my program right now who's taking it for the fourth time. So that's part of why I'm shifting, that this is a place that you come and actually stay for longer than the 4 month program. But you leave with a lifelong practice of journaling, of having a place where you can commune with yourself, where you can witness your own thoughts, where you can clear out some of the debris that we all walk around with. We walk around with so much clutter in our heads, and it blocks creative expression, it blocks creative flow. And so when we learn to daily just move those blocks and move through those blocks, amazing things start to happen. We start to experience clarity, we start to experience synchronicity, we start to experience like this really deep connection with source, with universe, with God, trust, flow. Amazing things start to happen. One of the shifts that I'm making in my program now is I'm shifting it to be a little bit more of a program where you're not just receiving this medicine, you're not just learning how to do morning pages, how to do somatic writing, but I'm actually calling my clients into leadership. And so when you go through my program, you're actually learning how to administer this method, how to use these tools with other people. And so I'm playing around a lot more with, people in the group get to lead the mindfulness. People in the group get to do the hot seat coaching. People in the group get to go into breakout rooms and practice these tools with each other. Because what I realized after doing it for 3 years, I sort of hit this like wall of like, okay, I want to go further. Like, what's next? What's the next iteration of Feel the Right Way? Because I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over, and it was powerful. It was incredible. The shifts that happen in my groups. I mean, the wins are insane, and so much of it is really just around self-love and learning to enjoy life and be vibrant and have fun and follow our passions. But I was like, what's next for Feel the Right Way? And I'm really landing on this. I want to shift it to be more of like a mastermind certification. And so my next launch is going to be in May. I have spots in May for anyone that is interested in joining. Yeah, it's an amazing group. It's just a loving, safe space where we get to be supported, we get to be seen. I also really encourage what I call generosity in the group. So I encourage people to coach each other. I encourage people to bring their own offers to the group. There's enough for all of us. There's room for all of us. And the community aspect of my program is really, really transformative. People create lifelong friendships and we support each other. And yeah, I could go on all day, but it's such an amazing, amazing, powerful program. And if I were to just kind of like distill the shift, the transformation that happens in this program, it's that you learn to be comfortable with yourself. You learn to love yourself, and you learn that you get to write your own story and you get to create the reality that you want.
Yeah. Sounds powerful. And the thing that's coming through right now is connect the dots to playfulness, to like living the life that you want to live, right? Because you use those like it's a very creative, it's expressive, it's playful. And I know you even like go have people go on these little dates with themselves and do fun things. So that's my own personal work. And I work with women where like we will go back, Rachel, and like play was deemed unsafe. They had to grow up really fast. They had to become adults. So play is kind of categorized as this frivolous, unnecessary thing, especially for purpose-driven nurse coaches, healers, high achievers, right? So coming back to play can be really challenging. And I know it's been challenging for you as well. So just share your take on that and just kind of connect how playfulness, how tapping into joy and playfulness helps you achieve like a better life and rewrite your story.
Yes, exactly what you said. We generally coach people around the things that we struggle with. And it's so funny because the artist way, Julia Cameron, and I've been living her principles for years. There's two components. And the way she describes it, it's kind of like a radio receiver and a radio transmitter. So a radio, like it puts up the transmitter. It's like, I don't remember which part of the radio is which, but basically the radio puts up a signal and says, I'm ready to receive. I'm here, send me the signal. And so that's our morning pages. That's sitting down every day. That's putting our thoughts on the page. That's talking to God. That's opening the vessel. That's clearing the pipes. That's opening ourselves up. I'm here. I'm ready to receive the message. I'm ready for inspiration. I'm ready for whatever. And then we need to receive it, right? We need to go out and get that inspiration. And that's the artist state. That's the going out. That's taking a frivolous trip to Home Goods and smelling the candles. That's spontaneously jumping in the car and going rock climbing. That's the collecting the inspiration. And I've seen this time and time and time again, especially with nurses, and this has been my own journey as well, where people show up for the morning pages. They're like, oh my God, giving me another box to check, giving me another thing to do. Like, I am so there. But then you tell them to play, you tell them to be frivolous, and you tell them to pause, and you tell them to put the work down and to have fun. They clench up, and it's so challenging and it's so hard to do. And again, that's been my own journey. Like my morning pages, I don't struggle with. I still struggle with artistry and carving out that time. And that's part of why I believe in doing this kind of work in a group, because you need that accountability, right? You need somewhere to come and celebrate and be like, hey, everybody, I went for a massage. It was really hard, but I did it and I carved out the time. So this idea of being playful and being fun, it's so challenging for us, especially women in modern times. Like we're so busy all the time. We wear so many hats. We have so many distractions. We play so many roles. And we don't realize how important it is to really carve out that time for ourselves. And this is more than just self-care. Like self-care is, to me, that's foundational. Like that comes first. I mean, take care of yourself, get enough sleep, eat nutritiously. Like that's the foundation. I'm talking about like have fun, the way our kids get on the floor and go into an imaginary world. This is like a basic human need. And it's helpful for some people because it's a little confusing, because the point of play is to be in play. The point of play is to be spontaneous and have fun. It's also going to serve your goals. It's also going to help you advance in your career. It's also going to help you make more money. It's also going to help you in your relationships. That's not why we're doing it, because that's not the point. The point of play is the play. Like that is the point. But there are so many side effects that just come with allowing ourselves to be silly and to be free and to dance and move our bodies. And I use my children as teachers. Like I look at my children, they get into these imaginary worlds, and it's so inspiring. It's so inspiring and it's so beautiful. And it's literally why we're here on Earth. So if there's one thing that anyone takes away from today's conversation, it's like go play. Like go play. Go in the forest, like play in the mud, pick some mushrooms, whatever that looks like for you. Find a way to allow that inner child to be seen, because that's what the inner child wants more than anything else. It's just that space to be free and to play.
Yeah, thanks for shedding some light on that for everyone. But for me personally, that is my own personal biggest struggle. And I just want to share something that really helped me was saying and affirming to myself, play is productive. Play is productive, right? Because in my brain likes that. My brain wants to be productive. So it's like, and really talking it out, like why it's productive. Because when we go to the end, the most important thing in all of our lives are the connections that we've made, to God, to self, but to others. And how do we connect with others, with our kids? I think of specifically through play. Yeah. So play is accomplishing your dreams and goals. It is the most productive thing. And your brain will challenge you on that every time. So really bringing in those mantras that are true, that feel true in your body. And that's really helped me. So take it.
I love that.
Play is productive. It's the most productive thing I can do is connect with my kid, because I will just say personally, I almost get like this when like my son asks me to play. Like I'm like, oh my God, another thing to like, no, I get angry, and then I have to calm myself down and remind myself of the truth. So I love that you're really focusing on play, because I think play is a challenge for everyone watching today. So if you could go back, Rachel, to your pre-entrepreneur when you were a nurse on the floor and tell her one thing, what would it be?
There's so many things I want to tell her. It's hard to choose just one. But I think I would tell her the thing that I just told your audience, which is to play more, like to allow herself to be in that space, even at work, to play more. And I would say I was pretty good at that. I think I worked night shift, and I feel like night shift there's a little bit more space for that. Like the night shift group, that was like they were more tight knit. There was a lot of camaraderie. We had a lot of potlucks, and just a lot of time. There was a little bit more space and time to laugh and exchange recipes and catch up, like gossip at the nursing station. But I would tell her like more play. Take as much time as she could to get on the floor with the kids, to to do artist dates and spend time with herself, nurture herself, because she was working really hard and she was really exhausted, and she really needed that. So I think that's what I would tell her.
Love that. And what advice would you offer to nurses seeking to embark on their own healing journeys? And how can storytelling serve as a transformative tool in their process?
So I think nurses have the best stories, like hands down. I don't think anybody sees what we see. We are with people at the most pivotal moments: birth, death, sickness, transition, all the things that we see. And a pattern that I've seen with nurses is that we don't believe that those stories belong to us. A lot of nurses are very hung up on HIPAA and privacy, and we navigate a lot of this in my program. I talk a little bit about in my program about HIPAA and how to navigate that if you do choose to share your stories. But the first step is always to just write and to just write those stories. And hold on, I'm gonna grab my charger while I'm talking.
Okay. Real life. Yeah.
Nurses think that those stories don't belong to us, and I just think that the world wants to hear our stories. They want to know what we do. They want to hear about what it's like to be a nurse. And so I would tell nurses to sit down and write those stories and share them if you can. Like, really, it's so healing to be witnessed in your stories.
Yeah. I love that. I know that I was on a personal healing journey, and writing was a huge part of my own personal healing. So I know how impactful it is. And just go ahead, and we're wrapping up now. So tell everyone how they can connect with you. And do you have any kind of, an offer that you want to give the audience?
Absolutely. So sit down again. I didn't want my laptop to die in the middle of this. Okay. I have a free Facebook group called Nurses Who Write. I also have my website, racheldickcoaching.com. I have all the podcasts I've ever done and a lot of free resources. The offer that I will mention today is well, first of all, my group coaching program starts in May. If anyone wants to jump in, it's going to be incredible. I also have a self-paced version of my course. So this is basically all the modules for Heal the Right Way. It also comes with a Telegram community, a place where you can share writing and connect with other writers. You get 57 CEUs for this program. So if you're a nurse through the American Holistic Nurses Association, all my coaching, you get CEUs. And it's only $197. And so you get to do this program on your own, at your own pace. It has tons of modules, it has tons of bonus resources, master classes, and really just helps you get started as a writer and as a storyteller, and helps you open that journey of creative expression and creative recovery. So I think it's a really amazing, amazing program. Again, I always emphasize doing things in community. I think community is so important. But if you're curious about my work, if you've been eyeing my program, but you haven't felt ready to jump in, this is an amazing way to get like a taster of my program and of my work. And the other amazing thing is, if you do take this self-paced program, Heal the Right Way, you can always credit that $197 towards working with me in any capacity. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it with Rachel Dick, everybody. And one last thing I want to say, if we could go back to that past version of you, if I could say something to her, it'd be just you wait and see what you can do. Like, right? Like, just think of what you just created, and I know you from a couple of years ago. Just like think of the journey and everything it's taken to get here, Rachel, but look at what you're creating and putting out in the world. And it's just amazing. It's so inspirational. So, yeah, I would tell her, you just wait and see what you can do, right?
Yes, thank you. She needed to hear that. So, yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to post everything in the description. And I just want to say it's been such a pleasure, Rachel. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your story. Thank you for helping our community of nurses and nurse coaches create their own stories, because that's what it's all about, is rewriting your story. And if this resonated with you, you want to do the deeper work one-on-one with a coach who can bring you to these places. I would love for you to jump on a clarity call with me. I have one open 6-month one-to-one spot for April, and it's got your name on it. And I also just want to share that I'm creating something new. So, more to come on that, but I have just made the decision, something that's been on my heart, having to do with a lot of the healing work that Rachel and I talked about, and I can't wait to present it to you. So that will be coming soon, and I will make a big announcement for that. All right, everyone. Well, it's been so great. Bye, everyone. See you later.